Howdy, I'm Jace and I'm a sex addict. This is Sex Life, where we talk about sex and we talk about life. We do so openly and honestly, without judgment or shame. This week's question is a great one because we get to tackle a myth, which is awesome. I love tackling myths and I also love myths. But let's correct one here today. So, the question was, if you're sober and you're not relapsing, you're not sexually acting out, are you still a sex addict? And the example was given that if you are an alcoholic and you quit drinking, you're not an alcoholic anymore. Super wrong. Both of those are very wrong. That's not true at all. If you are an alcoholic and you don't drink anymore, that's amazing. If you are a sex addict and you're sober and you don't act out anymore, that is also amazing. If you're an addict of any kind and you've gained sobriety and you've clawed your way from hell, which is honestly what sobriety is, that's amazing. And we're all still addicts. Hooray! So addiction isn't something that you get. It is a brain disease, and science has been putting out that information for quite a while now. Of course, it has taken longer for things like pornography and sex addiction, and those two are lumped together sometimes. Internet addiction, social media, things like that have taken longer to get in the mix, and there's still plenty of people that say that they can't be addicting, which, what are you gonna do? Some people think the world's flat, so, So it is a brain disease, and it so far is not curable. Though, of course, we can go into remission from it, but I will never not be an addict. I don't have a choice at that. A lot of addiction is genetic. That it comes down through the family line, which is why you see families that go back so many generations, and there's addiction in all of those. There's a genetic component to addiction, and then where addiction really lies is in the brain. So even if an alcoholic hasn't had a drink in 40 years, they're still an addict. And alcohol addiction and alcoholic are the same thing. So that person is still an addict. When I get to my 20 or 40 years of sobriety, I'll still be an addict too. And that's a bummer in a lot of ways. And in other ways, it's really, really cool because I have to always be very mindful of how I'm living and my choices, how I am showing up, what I am consuming, whether that's actual physical consumption or visual or spiritual consumption, anything. I mean, I gotta be aware of all of it. And the other thing that we'll just kind of touch on real quick is there's this idea of co-addictions, that the huge majority of addicts have co-addictions. I put that in quotation marks because I don't believe in co-addictions. That doesn't make any sense to me. I believe that there is the brain disease of addiction, and it shows up any way that it can. So for me, that was sexual acting out, that was pornography, that was alcohol, that's been work, that's been food. My spending has been in the mix with that. Codependency is in there as well, as I'm discovering. And, oh, goodness gracious. Probably anything. So I don't think I have a dozen addictions. I think I have addiction. And anything that is affecting my brain chemistry, my dopamine, my brain chemicals, and that circuit system that is in play with addiction, anything that plays into that, for me, because I have the brain disease of addiction, shows up addictively, compulsively, and I don't have a lot of control over it without help and without being mindful and conscientious and all of that. So, yep. As the youths are saying these days, sorry, not sorry. If you're an addict forever. you don't really have a choice. What you do have a choice in is being a recovering addict. And that's pretty badass. Being a recovering addict is super awesome. It means we have more choices than anyone else in life because our life is on the line. And we have a disease that won't go away, but the recovery from it actually leads to a better life than someone who doesn't have the disease has the potential to live. So, if you're gonna have a disease, addiction's one of the worst, and it super sucks. Like, it's literally terrible and life destroying, and it just is a vacuum of misery that brings everyone into it. And recovery from addiction is like an explosion of light and fireworks and fireflies on warm summer evenings and the ice cream man slowing down when you're a kid, which I don't know about y'all, but the ice cream man in my block like sped up when we were trying to get ice cream. But anyway, being a recovering addict is a choice. It also is lifelong, and it's something that I feel really honored to get to participate in because it means that I have a loving community around me. It means that I have a self-decided spiritual practice that I get to be involved in. Brought me to some of the greatest people I've ever known in my life, some of the wisest thoughts and active living. It has made me healthy all around and all sorts of amazing things. So I'm sober and still an addict, always will be, as far as I know, and I choose to be a recovering addict. I hope that everyone can say the same out there who is watching this and struggling with addiction. If you relate to these things, or you've done your own research, or you've done some of the self-assessments below, or you've read the diagnosis or any of the books that are linked below, and you're like, oh shit, I have that thing, have so much hope, because recovery for sex addiction is super accessible these days. It's definitely available. There's some helpful links below, and you too can choose to be a recovering addict, which is very awesome. So thank you so much for that question. Please send in yours at jacedowney.com. If you dig this content and want to keep getting more of it, subscribe to the channel. And until I see y'all next time, stay curious.